Hello. Yeah, it's getting kind of late in the evening, and then I was looking at some stuff online and got a little animated about it. So I just want to talk about the Twitter files. And I'm not going to be all that, because what had came out is additional information on Kennedy being assassinated. And I was just kind of thinking, it's not totally shocking to me that the FBI would have some information, but I do have some doubts that we should take that information as gospel and as the complete story, right? And why I have those doubts is especially that Elon is so central to this. And Elon, as I would imagine people would remember, um, was kind of home of the Twitter files, right? Where he had handpicked, understandably, certain, um, journalists like Matt Taibbi, and then, oh, Barry, what's her name? I forget her full name, but specific people to report on this stuff. But I mean, they were given. I think one time Matt Taibbi was people were saying, look, Elon is feeding you this stuff, and you're just gobbling it up, right? Like a little chick or something. And he was kind of upset about that. And um, so he had said, no, I had access to all this information. And so when asked, oh, so you had access to all of the information, all of Twitter's information? Wow, because like I had seen that and I thought, oh, well, shit, that is kind of interesting then. But he was, respectful enough to kind of correct that and say that, well, I mean, he had information or he had access to a lot of information that Elon had, made available. And so, kind of back to Elon's kind of giving you the interesting stuff that casts a certain narrative, certain slant on it. And so, and the thing is, I believe it was, and other people around that time had also been given access. So I believe it was Ken Klippenstein was given access, and at first I thought, well, fuck, that's something different. Ken, you know, he seems to have a relationship or respect from intelligence. I guess law enforcement, but a lot of times just kind of intelligence, government people who send him stuff that isn't supposed to meet the light of day. So a lot of times he winds up with pretty interesting stuff. I've never felt that his coverage was really the kind of stuff you see on network TV, where they just totally suck up to whatever the head of the CIA, FBI, NSA, whatever are wanting. So I thought him having access is fantastic. Turns out, though, if I remember, yeah, I might be a little bit wrong, but I do remember that he at least had very limited, like a very short time span to go through a huge amount of information. He, in short order, had found that there was stuff going on with the government and Twitter, but it was largely that the military or the intelligence had fake accounts where they had groups that were trying to kind of cast a certain light on things or narratives they were trying to spin. And that's wrong. I think anybody would say, the government shouldn't be doing that. But the thing is, Twitter figured that out and shut it down. And I'm sure that probably still goes on, etc., right? But the thing is kind of the nuance there, if you will, which isn't much of a nuance. It's pretty stark. The difference from what he found was Twitter shut it down, where Elon was just very fixated on Twitter, totally full of libtards or whatever. You hear the right calling people that are supposed to be on the left, and they're normally calling people that are on the left, and they're really centrists or just kind of mild Republicans. It's just weird. But and so it's just Elon just wanted to, his story in the end at least wound up being a very specific narrative in the information that the people were given, that he had picked. And also, though, just to kind of wind this up, if we remember, the big hoopla, whatever, I'm not thinking of the right word, but the big ordeal about this with Twitter is that NY Post, I believe, put up a story that nobody else really, cooperated with. And so they were unsure. Does this seem like a legitimate story about this, supposedly this laptop that was Hunter Biden's, right? And so they didn't allow links to it or some such thing for I think an hour. And again, as normal, Democrats just kind of, I don't know, they were having, probably very expensive meetings with, you know, billionaires or whatnot at the time. So it didn't occur to them to point out that we're talking about like an hour, an inconvenience at best for this story. And I never saw what the big deal about it was, because it's been what, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, hell if I know, but it's been a huge amount of time, and Republicans at large couldn't really find anything better than, oh well, the big guy was mentioned, and then Hunter was receiving some funds, or no, I think he was sending some funds to his dad who had loaned him money. And what Republicans don't quite understand is, because they, typically have, enough money, they don't have to worry about loans. So when somebody loans you money, well, you pay it back. Or somebody, a parent gives you a car or something. You pay them for it. Maybe you can't pay it all right now, so you pay it off. Maybe it was nefarious. I don't know. but just saying that there are 100 different ways that what they found in the end was like a big nothing, right? Nothing burger or whatever you say. Not a big deal. And that's I still have not really seen an exception to the GOP where their huge stories wind up being not much of anything. Democrats do plenty of stupid stuff. They didn't. They jettisoned. Oh, yeah, I don't remember. The one guy, because some woman said, I felt a little uncomfortable, and so they said he's got to go. Um, 6 7 years ago, whatever more. But then the one guy that was just kind of collecting gold from foreign governments. They didn't really say much of anything about him. So it's just really disappointing. So anyway, hopefully that got that a little bit out of my brain, so I can get some sleep here in a little bit. So, all right, well, have a good day.